Fragments of silicon. Even if you break it, you'll only have more.
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, the Daylight interviews. I have to change that on the Twitch page at some point. Now it's been a while since we had one of these. Nothing, you know, it's just a bunch of bad luck that beset us this month. We had to do something on a Friday, and but anyway, we are here with another one of these, and I would like our guests to introduce themselves.
I will start then. Hi guys. So I'm Ben. I'm the co-producer at TA Publishing, part of Forever Entertainment Group, and we are working on several IPs. I think I've already been in the podcast to speak about Fear Effect, because that's one of our projects. And we released the Panzer Dragoon early last year, and we are currently working on House of the Dead.
Yeah, we had you on for Panzer Dragoon as well.
Good. I didn't remember because I made a lot of interviews, but good, right?
Yeah. And joining us here is a fresh face, relatively speaking.
Yeah, hello, I'm Artur. I'm the producer in Megapixel Studio. That actually is one that's made with TA and Benjamin the Panzer Dragoon, and now we are working on several IPs as well. I think we can say almost the same with Benjamin, to be honest, because we are both a part of the FE group, and we are working together on a daily basis. So I think that's all.
I mean, it does get a bit tangled since there's about 4 companies involved here, including Sega.
I think more, in fact, because even in the Forever group currently is 4 studios, TA as a producer, and Forever. So it's already 5 companies, and we are working with IP owners. So it's six companies in most of our projects. But for House of the Dead, it's only Megapixel and Sega and TA, so it's 3.
Reminds me of another Sega remake, Streets of Rage 4.
From our friend at Dotemu.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had them on the show a couple of years ago as well. We've had a surprising amount of the Sega remakes on this program, but I don't know, things work out or whatever. But anyway, I suppose we should get into the House of the Dead. I suppose my first question is, how did you come about acquiring the license? Was that alongside the Panzer Dragoon, or was that separate?
It's pretty old. I think it was after, but not long after. I don't know if you remember, Artur, but I think it's when we showed the first screens of Panzer Dragoon, Sega, I think, liked it.
It definitely came up later on a little bit. And the Panzer Dragoon was first, even though the contract for House of the Dead came up during the Panzer Dragoon development. But they were waiting for first results, we believe, and it appears they were happy, so the deal came through.
Exactly.
Now, was the House of the Dead something you pursued, or was that something Sega offered?
It's definitely something discussion. So so we can't say. But anyway, the most important thing is that we are working with Sega. Everyone is happy with the cooperation, so we have the opportunity to make more games. And we are extremely happy because we love Panzer Dragoon, but also we love House of the Dead as an IP, so it's great for us.
Well, okay, you enjoy the House of the Dead as an IP, but do either did you play the old games back in the day?
Definitely.
Uh, yeah, I remember House of the Dead 1 and 2 being favorites of mine back in the, 20 years ago or whatever, in the arcades. And tell us about transitioning these classic arcade games to the modern day. Um, what are you like? Are you planning on using the Joy Cons as light gun replacements?
To be honest, in House of the Dead, it was kind of tricky nowadays because modern gaming is mainly focused on a regular controller, while the age of arcades, especially in Europe, is kind of dead, like the House of the Dead. So we we try to revive this. So in case of consoles, we will offer plenty of ways to play House of the Dead. There are ways we can talk about, and there are ways we can't. But definitely using the sticks, the Joy-Cons, is the very basic way you can play the House of the Dead, but you will be able to use your single Joy-Con with a gyroscope as something that mimics the gun, or use just the gyroscope, etc. So I think that everyone will find the proper way for him to play the House of the Dead. Just that's my opinion, and I'm kind of proud of how we managed to propose the players so many ways of playing the House of the Dead on Nintendo Switch.
Oh, indeed. I suspected that there would be a, for lack of a better term, light gun option for the Joy Cons because I don't know if you remember like the Nintendo Wii era. That's kind of how it worked with light gun games back then, including House of the Dead Overkill.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, I played the House of the Dead on arcade, but when it came on the Wii and you basically can play arcade game in home, it was great. And but speaking about the gameplay, I think we can't say more than Artur said. I think everyone will find a way to play the game the way they like it, really.
So you're not concerned about any sort of, well, I guess for a lack of a better term, backlash, if the from arcade purists that you might have to use a D-pad. You can use a D-pad or analog sticks or what have you.
Not concerned at all.
Nope.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I suppose another aspect of this being an arcade shooter is how do you go about selling this kind of experience in the modern day?
When you mean
It
selling,
depends. It depends on the mode you will play because we are aware that the limitation of the technology made this game in some way. There is plenty of things the original team wanted to do, but wasn't able to. So you can play the House of the Dead in a classic mode that is a copy paste of the original one with improved graphics, etc., etc. But you have the Horde mode, which is the modern version that is focused more on fun and uses most of the current devices specs. So we not only recreated what was there many years ago, we also evolved, added an option to play really cool zombie shooter. That's all. So both fans and new people will find something for themselves.
Well, I mean, I certainly hope so. Because once again, the House of the Dead is a pretty good light gun game, and I would like to see it alive and well in the modern day. But I suppose another question to that end is: are you remaking just the first House of the Dead game, or are you remaking multiple House of the Dead games?
I think we already announced that we are working on the first and the second one.
Okay.
I don't think I'm sure. I'm sure we announced that.
I'm not sure. That's why I wanted you to
Yeah. No, we announced we are working. We are currently working and focusing on the first one. As you probably saw, Nintendo announced it during the Nindy in March, I think, or April maybe. So it's not far from the release, let's say. And then we will work on the second one. We announced that.
Okay, so it's a similar situation to the Panzer Dragoon remakes.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose along those lines, do the remake of Panzer Dragoon and House of the Dead share any sort of staff?
Yeah, definitely. But it's more like how to say, the company is growing. We are using the experience from the first Panzer Dragoon, but I think the most important part was the evolution of the cooperation with Sega. We were learning during the Panzer Dragoon how we should work, how Sega preferred to work, how we prefer to work, where we can meet each other in a way that it will work best for both sides, etc. And I think that the way that House of the Dead looks and works, especially on Nintendo Switch right now, is an excellent example of long-term relation. Because the Panzer Dragoon remake, of course, was an awesome game, great game, right? But I believe that the House of the Dead looks way better, works way better. So, but that's how it should be, right? Every next game should be better, and that's exactly what we do.
I mean, there's definitely a certain logic to that, considering that this is, your second remake of a Sega IP. So it's only natural that the process would be smoother overall.
Exactly.
And certainly with the Panzer Dragoon remake, I mean, speaking frankly, it was a good remake, but it can't be denied that when it launched, it was in a bit of a rough state. I mean, it got there, but like the frame rate issue was certainly a big concern in the reviews I read of that. And I suppose my question here is, what are you doing to ensure that the House of the Dead remake has a certain level of polish that the Panzer Dragoon remake lacked at that launch?
I think that most important thing is that the first patches of Panzer Dragoon, especially the second one that was released like a month after, showed to the players that we know how to make this game run and play good, because the next reviews, especially on other platforms when the game was polished after the month, are quite good. So it's something we're aiming for. So that's the first thing. We can do that, and we are doing this. And with the House of the Dead, I think that of course we can't rely only on trust of the players, right? But I think that videos we are showing are, it's Benjamin, you have to help me. I started to chase
no,
my
I
own.
think what you said before is exactly the case. It's experience. When we released Panzer Dragoon, it was the, I think, second big game for Megapixel after Holo. I think it's the second game of this scope.
Yeah.
So it's not Megapixel is not very old studio, and I think we learned a lot on Panzer Dragoon, especially on polishing and also the fact that people, and it's absolutely normal, judge the game when it's released, and rarely after. They don't change their review online, or if we patch the game. So we are aware of that now, and we will take care of the game. But also you have to understand that when we release a game like this, you have a lot of partners involved. You have Sega, you have Forever, you have Nintendo, and sometimes there are some marketing requirements, and it's not it's exactly in line with the production state, but it's not a big deal because the patch are here for that. And as Artur said, I think after the patch, everyone can say that the game is Panzer Dragoon is very good game, very very nice, plays smoothly, and that's what we were aiming since the very beginning.
Especially, especially compared to other Nintendo Switch games, because we must say that it was the second big project, but the first one with that graphic quality that has to run on Nintendo Switch. Because we have to point that as well, that on all other platforms the game was always smooth and nice. So that was the main challenge, but it was solved with Panzer Dragoon. So now we just know how to make it smooth from the scratch.
One funny thing is that we really often hear that from the medias, not from the players. The fact that maybe Panzer Dragoon was lacking a bit of polish, etc. We are hearing that from medias mainly, and it didn't prevent the IP owners to contact us after the release of Panzer Dragoon, because we had a lot of contacts with IP owners. We have a lot of unannounced projects. So I think maybe in the industry they are able to see the potential of a title, even if it's not fully polished at launch. But yeah, that's something that astonished me every time when we speak about the polish of Panzer Dragoon.
I mean, that's certainly understandable. The Switch, does have its limitations, but I suppose it is reassuring to hear that things will be how to put this, in a much better state with this one.
What I can say is that, sorry for interrupting you, but what we can say is that the House of the Dead today is in a better state than Panzer Dragoon during the release. So I can assure you about that. So every day it's just only better and better.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. I suppose along those lines, what sort of frame rate are you shooting for on this? 60 frames?
60 frames docked and 30 frames handheld.
Okay. And 720 or 1080 docked?
720 docked and 720 handheld.
Okay, that's not too unusual. And I think that's what the Panzer Dragoon remake launched with.
Yeah, Panzer Dragoon was hitting 30 frames per second in dock as well, and that was the main mistake, because that was the reason that made the inputs a little bit laggy and let's say jelly, not responsive. And after the patches, we changed the target, and even if the game isn't able to keep the stable 60 frames per second, the inputs are way more responsive, and that was the deal breaker, even in reviews.
Once again, I get where they were coming from, especially Panzer Dragoon. I think that was 60 frames on the original Saturn, or was it 30? It's been a long time since I played the originals.
I believe it was 60.
Yeah. So, not a surprise that people, reacted the way they did towards the frame rate. Anyway, I suppose shifting away from this a bit, was there any particular reason you chose the Nintendo Switch as the first platform to launch the House of the Dead remake on?
It's just because we have excellent relation with Nintendo, and they are helping us promoting the game, producing the game. Yeah, I think we are. Maybe you saw that we are very close to Nintendo, and most of our games are released on Nintendo first.
Fair enough, I suppose. And getting back to the game itself, you mentioned that the remake is going to be a 1-to-1, and there's going to be a horde mode. Can you talk about any of the other modes that may or may not be in this remake?
I don't want to spoil too much, but the horde mode itself is focused on I don't know how to say, fast-paced action shooting, still rail shooting, but the amount of zombies of all enemies is multiplied in some places even 15 times, and the camera gives you more time, and as long as you stay alive, it proceeds through the picked path, right? But that's not all. It also lets you unlock things that were not in the original game at all, despite the characters, ending with the armor, etc. But I don't want to say anything more. But if you want to unlock everything in the game, you will have to finish it plenty times, and every time it will differ because you will have new options, new ways of fighting, etc. And I must admit that repeatability of the game is really good.
Like, yeah, that's not too surprising. I remember like the home ports of like the original House of the Dead and House of the Dead 2 and whatnot that had similar things. You know, like House of the Dead 2 had like a boss rush mode and a few more, and like a time attack mode and stuff like that. You know, your typical, this is an arcade game, let's add some longevity to it. And it sounds like this is traveling down a similar vein.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have to remember that it's still the House of the Dead, so it must be the House of the Dead. That's what people probably expect.
Well, at least the first game. I mean, the House of the Dead was one of those titles that got less and less accurate as the series went on. I mean, the second game took place in a town, kind of like Resident Evil in that regard.
I was gonna say, like Resident Evil, where there's a residence in the first one and then mostly not until like 7.
I mean, to be fair, that was the American title. The
True,
Japanese
Biohazard does always hold more or less true.
title. So
We
it's
have
not
some
really,
questions in the chat.
well. What are they asking? Sorry, I'm not.
When can we expect the game to be available to play, and is the UI going to be changed in the final release?
For the release date, we can't say more. It's impossible today. But it's closer than ever, as I say in general. And no, it's we can't say more. And for the UI, I let Artur reply.
UI, yes, definitely. The UI visible on the video is maybe not a placeholder, but it's like a first iteration, and it doesn't cover all the things we need. So it is redesigned already.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's an alliance. Like, anyway, any other questions from the chat, Petty or Gallitz?
There's another question about if you can use the Joy-Cons as a light gun.
And we have no specifics on that, but we have that there will be multiple modes of control.
Mm-hmm. Including
so, probably.
Yeah, including you can use a single Joy-Con, if I understood that. We asked that at the top, in case you all missed it. So.
Yep, exactly.
Sir Cracker Bulb asks, I'm curious, will the remake include a way to play the original version of the game? Once again, if you missed it, the answer is well, it'll have it graphically updated. But I'm guessing this question is, will you be able to play like the original game with the original graphics?
No, no way. There's no way, because the sources are gone, and possibility of ripping off the original geometry appeared to be almost impossible.
And if you really want to play original game, I'm sure you'll find solution.
Exactly.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Not to mention that using original geometry probably will be tricky from the point of the law.
I mean, I suppose I get where they're coming from, because a lot of these modern day classic Sega IP remake things do have that option, but those tend to be like the 2D games, like Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap had that, but that's a much simpler comparatively speaking.
You can't compare these two games.
All right, that voice guy asks, will you be making remastered versions of the level music?
So for the music, we decided to go in a bit different direction. We made new musics, extremely inspired by the original music, but it's not the original remake. It's fully new musics, and that's a scoop for you.
And are you looking to release that physically at some point?
Yeah. If we have the opportunity, we will be extremely happy. And I'm sure it will be on the forever limited editions, because Forever Entertainment released their physical branch. It's called Forever Limited, and we have already, I think, 3 or 4 games in physical editions.
Okay.
Including Counter Dragon, if you're interested.
Right. All right. AG the Skeleton asks, will the zombies have death animations instead of the ragdoll physics, or is that not possible?
Of course, it's possible, but ragdoll is fun, especially when you're killing.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
Especially when you kill zombies. Not to mention that I don't want to spoil, but the ragdoll is a critical feature for some weapons. Yeah, so I don't think we will be changing the ragdoll to animations in case of deaths, excluding bosses, which are always custom animations similar to the original game, right?
And I suppose that begs a deeper question. How does the ragdoll? I'm not sure how much you can go into this, but how much did the ragdoll physics change the gameplay, if any?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I didn't understand.
Okay, do these ragdoll physics change the gameplay significantly?
Not at all, to be honest. Because if there were events that were relying on the animations, we do that as well. But during the regular battle, it doesn't affect the gameplay at all, to be honest.
Okay. To Twitch VAR spot, they can't really talk about specifics of any sort of Joy-Con light guns thing. And we do have a clarification.
Because it's a question you have a lot, but
right.
It's exactly as when we were working on Counter Dragon. Our goal is to make the best game possible, and to please the fan is, of course, one of our goal and priority. So I can't say more, but if we can do something like that, we will try, and let's see if we manage to do it.
Okay. Well, this is specifically, they were asking for if you're any chance for a pistol attachment for the Joy-Cons kind of what they did with the back in the Wii, Wii Zapper and all that.
I imagine manufacturing a separate attachment for that would be a little bit would make the
Yeah, so
game
that's
expensive.
exactly the point. So we are. I can't say more. Sorry, I can't say more. But of course, we are speaking with the community for already a long time, and that's something the community requested. So we are trying to find a solution, and let's see if we manage to find one.
Okay. Shifting to another area that we haven't quite talked about yet. What are you doing for the sound effects? Like the zombie groans and also like the voice acting. Especially the voice acting, I'm interested in because there's no easy way to say it. The House of the Dead is pretty infamous for its voice acting.
To put it lightly.
Yeah. For the voice acting, I don't know if you saw the trailer, because during the Nintendo Direct there was a very small trailer, but there is also on the Nintendo channel a longer trailer.
Mhm.
And as you can see, there is voice acting, and we are happy because the feedback we had is exactly infamous as it was in the original game. So that's exactly what we wanted. And we worked with Natalie, who was the actress, and she already worked on Fear Effect Sedna. And yes, she worked on with her cast on the game. So we remade all the voices. We tried to get that bad feeling, if I can say that, and I think we managed to have it.
I'm gonna be interested to see how that plays out because, once again, to be frank, the casting and the voice acting on the House of the Dead wasn't ever intentional. That was just what they had available at the time, and recapturing the spirits can be trickier. Anyway, we got more questions from the chat. Twitch Farspot asks, "What engine are you using?" I think it looks really impressive. Honestly, far better than Panzer Dragoon.
It's the same engine.
Right. Do you use Unreal?
I guess it could just be better for certain things.
Benjamin, can we talk about the engine we are using? I think we can,
Of
right?
course, yes, you can.
So it's just Unity. It's not a big deal. So, but this is what I was talking about earlier. With every title, we're getting better and better. The game looks better and works better. So,
Right. That once again figures just the way development works. And we did cover that earlier in the interview. Griffin D4C asks, was it always planned to have House of the Dead 1 and 2 remakes separated instead of a bundle?
Sorry, what?
The question is, was it always the plan to do the remakes separately instead of at the same time?
Yeah, the plan was always to do that. Yes, it doesn't mean that maybe one day we'll never get a bundle, but for now we are working one episode after another and releasing one after another.
Right. Was there any particular consideration? Was it a manpower issue, or is just the way you wanted to do things?
It's the way we wanted to do things.
Once again, understandable. Because House of the Dead 1 and 2 are separate games, and these aren't remasterings. These aren't any sort of remixing of the original assets. These are full on from the ground up. What the actual word means.
We have this question just especially with the House of the Dead because there was some bundles before. There were some bundles like the 2 and 3 on the Switch, I think,
Right.
on the Wii. Sorry. We never had this question for Panzer Dragoon. It's not because there were some bundles before that we are making it, because honestly the game in terms of gameplay length, in terms of graphics, is pretty big, and it makes no sense, I think, to make a bundle for the first release of the game.
Okay. More questions coming at us. Will there be HD rumble for a Time Crisis style recoil effect?
Artur,
HD rumble.
rumbles.
The rumbles overall, yes, we use rumble feature a lot. Of course, it can be adjusted, modified, or turned off if you want to. I'm not sure about the HD before the rumble, if it means something specific, but rumbles,
It's the name of the
So-
rumble for the Switch.
Yeah, so I believe what the question is asking here is, can you use the HD rumble to tweak the rumble effect of each of the weapons? So like the pistol will have a different recoil than the shot.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Okay, that is interesting. Twitch Farspot asks, can you tell us a bit more about how this whole project happened? How you got the license from Sega, the reactions, and so on?
I think we already said that, but
I know. It's like
People are
it's like
filtering
some
late.
Some people may have missed the interview. Don't worry if you missed something from this interview. We will have VOD available right after the broadcast. We are recording this live, and so anyway, getting back to things. How far along would you say the project is at this point in time?
How far the project is right now, right?
Yeah.
How far?
far.
Benjamin? Pretty far.
I'm pretty far. Far enough to provide to announce it during a Nintendo Direct, so it's usually far.
That's a fair enough answer. Keep in mind, if they don't go into specifics, because they literally cannot announce it.
Yeah, of course, it's not because we don't want to. We don't want to be nice with you. It's just because we can. But honestly, if we are communicating, if we are showing trailers, etc., it's that the release is not extremely far from now.
Right. Now, this is more for the audience. Like, anyway, now it's coming to the Nintendo Switch first. Is it coming to other platforms later?
Yeah, it will be the same as or almost the same as the Panzer Dragoon. So yeah, on the Switch first, then on other platform. I don't know, to be honest, how much time after.
But I can say that definitely regarding other consoles, when it will finally appear in other consoles, it will be probably in a similar time, not like with Panzer Dragoon that came on PS4 like a half year or something like that. And the Xbox was earlier, etc. So it was kind of a mess. Now it will be more like convenient for everyone, but how much time will be between the Switch and the other platforms, I even don't know. So even if I would like to say, I don't know.
Fair enough. I do remember the Panzer Dragoon remake releases being weirdly staggered like that, including like I think one of the earlier releases was a Stadia release. Nothing against Stadia, it's just a bit odd there. I suppose along those lines, do you know if the House of the Dead remake is coming to the Stadia?
We can't say more today about that.
Okay.
I have a question real quick. Have you started development on the other platforms yet, or are you waiting until the Switch version is released?
But you know, as Artur said, it's Unity, so it's like when you develop for one platform, you have to just adapt after. It's not like redeveloping from scratch.
Fair enough.
But the happy news is that because the delay for some platforms with Panzer Dragoon was caused by the fact that we didn't have experience. What I can say that right now we are testing game on 4 different platforms. In the development studio, playing it every day, etc. We're not leaving the development, the porting game to the very end. It's like we are working on all platforms we have access to. Yeah,
Which should work because if it's Unity.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's always tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
no,
not like,
I'm not saying it's like it'll work flawlessly, but it's like possible to test.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
exactly.
safe as, but it's it's possible.
yeah. And are you handling the other platforms in-house, or is that being handled by other studios?
Everything is made at Megapixel Studio.
Okay. Makes sense considering, well, once again, Unity. Let's see. Have you sorted out any sort of price point for the House of the Dead remake yet?
Not precisely, but I think it's part of the Forever strategy to make good games with fair price for the player. So it's going to be somehow similar to Panzer Dragoon. But it's not going to be a $40 or €40 game, definitely.
I'd imagine some 15, 20 range.
Something like that, yeah. I don't even have the precise numbers, and it's the idea is still to have a fair proposition for the players.
Okay. John Kills 111 asks, I know you said that the music will be different from the original, but will there be an option to listen to the original music?
It's not in our plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Additional note there could always be music rights issues.
Mhm.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Anyway, to answer this question, our guests here are based in France, but they are also based in Poland.
Artur is in Poland currently.
Yeah, right now.
Okay. Like I said, there's about 6 companies working on this, so it's a truly international project.
The magic of the internet.
Yes.
To be precise, there are 3 companies working on the House of the Dead, but there are 6 companies in the Forever group.
Right. And also Sega as the IP holder.
Of course.
Okay. Another question. Phantom Z2 asks, how often do you guys go back and play the original or have to watch footage of the original game when making the remake?
To be honest, pre-options, we were able to test the arcade. We are playing on the original Sega consoles, and of course, on a daily basis, if we want to check something really quick, we are playing on the emulator. I think we shouldn't, because I know if it's legal, but it's just for research purposes. Let's say.
It's okay because we own the original material, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah. So we are using all tools and ways we can. Of course, playing the original on the original device is always critical, especially at the very start of the project, to get the feeling, to be able to reproduce it. It's something we kind of missed with the Panzer Dragoon at the beginning, and when we finally started to remember on the Sega Saturn how the original game was played, and we spent hours on it, not just testing, etc., but spending hours on it. And we started to remind ourselves what was the spirit of that game. We said like, holy now we have to change a lot, right? So with the House of the Dead, it was different. We started with that, and yeah.
Right. Hidora, we have already covered that these questions in the interview earlier. Once again, if your question isn't asked, it's probably already been asked. And once again, yes. Okay. They want further clarification on the soundtrack. By different soundtrack, do you mean different, or do you mean remix?
I mean different, but heavily inspired.
So different.
Yeah, but I think you can spot the difference only if you really, really know the original soundtrack.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that's received, as these things often are. Like, anyway, I suppose in regards to new footage, I know you. Can people expect this game to manifest itself at E3 this year?
People expect that.
It's the usual kind of expectation for
No.
around this time. I mean, if not E3, then one of the like Guerrilla Collective or the Summer Game Fest.
Mm.
Yeah.
Currently, I don't know. I don't know, but for sure you will get some more news soon.
Okay. Okay. Another question from the chat is Sega somehow asking you for a quality check during the development to make sure you do things right? And are you in contact with them on a weekly basis? As far as that dovetails into another question I have, given the past year and a half, the whole COVID thing, how challenging has it been to work on this?
To be honest, in case of development itself, as the Sega is far away from Poland, right? So we were used to work remotely and to talk and write a lot through the internet. So I think here it was fine. I believe that it was harder in the group because, for example, with Benjamin, we were seeing each other really often, and that was better. Now when last time we met, Benjamin?
End of 19, I think.
Yeah, so that's something that, of course, makes things harder.
And no doubt, thankfully, it appears we are turning the corner, however slowly on it. So, yeah. Okay, so we have a riff on something we've asked here. Have you guys considered doing a nostalgic mode in which things like the models or zombies are essentially replaced with their original lowy poly count?
Not really, but if players will want it, we can always add it.
Okay, there's your answer there. Not planned, but maybe in a future patch. Let's see. In terms of PC releases, this is coming to Steam, yes?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I do have to ask that because we are in the age of the Epic Game Store, and sometimes the games show up there. Like,
yeah, sometimes it happens.
Yes. Let's see. I suppose switching tracks a bit, can you give us an update on Panzer Dragoon Zwei?
I don't think we can, to be honest.
No, the only update that we are still working on it.
But it's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's a really gorgeous game. Yeah,
you should play it really.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly look forward to the chance of doing that eventually. Another question.
You will at some point for sure.
Indeed. Another question here. Was Virtua Fighter ever on the team's radar? Any fans on the team happy to see Sega bringing it back themselves?
For the Virtua Fighter, you mean?
Yeah, like they're doing a upgrade to Virtua Fighter 5 Final Countdown.
Yeah, we have some fans of the IP in the studio. So yeah, everyone was very happy. But in general, I think we are very happy with what Sega is doing with the IP. I don't know if I think you saw that, but Sega is very I mean, it's nice because they are giving their best IPs to indie studios. And for us, it's a crazy opportunity, honestly, to work on Panzer Dragoon, House of the Dead, for .emu working on the Street of Rage, and I think they're right because I think the game we are producing as indie studio because we are all indie studios. I mean, at Megapixel, how many people do you have currently, Artur? I think.
Right
Yeah, I
now
mean-
we have 44, but during the Panzer Dragoon we had like 20. So yeah.
exactly.
And you have to,
So
yeah.
So it's great that Sega allows us to do it, and I think everyone is happy because we are doing it. The games are good, and Sega is happy because they are giving more IPs to even more studios. So that's perfect.
Hmm. And what about some of the other projects Megapixel is working on? Can you mention anything about those?
You're asking about the other titles we are working on,
Yes.
right? We can talk about anything that was announced. So like Hollow 2, like the House of the Dead, like the Panzer Dragoon, and I believe that's all. And even if there is more, I can tell you because I would probably get killed tonight.
Not necessarily Sega IP stuff, but I know Megapixel does original work, for example. Or am I thinking of TA Publishing? Like, yeah, could
So
be.
we soft announced two IPs we are working on, which are Magical Drop, an arcade game. I don't know if you know this arcade game, and also Shadowgate, an adventure game released on the NES in the 80s. But we just soft announced and we didn't show anything. In terms of original work, no, not really. I think we can't say more. But in fact, it's complicated because there are like a lot of different projects currently. The Forever group is extremely active currently.
I suppose from a personal note, can you give us any sort of updates on the Fear Effect remake?
Yeah.
Can
we?
Yeah, yes, we can. It's progressing. Can we say more than it just is progressing?
Yeah,
it's still in development and it's turning very great. Yeah.
So we don't talk about the gameplay.
Yeah, we don't talk a lot, but we made some choices, and I think the fan will really like it, and I'm looking forward to say more. I can't now, but really, I think when next time you will show some footage from the game, you will be amazed.
And definitely surprised positively.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question from the chat. Have you ever looked at the House of the Dead Discord or the wiki for feedback?
We have our Discord at Forever when we receive some feedback. But you mean some kind of official Discord or?
Yeah, we have a team in FE that actually works with fandoms, etc. The same situation was with Panzer Dragoon. I don't remember all the names. Benjamin, you can help me here with the fan teams that have these big sites about the Panzer Dragoon series, etc.
The Panzer Dragoon World and Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, and there was a team that was supposed to work with them to help us understand the whole series better. And the similar situation is here.
Okay, some more questions. This last 5 minutes here. Do you ever get to talk to the original developers of the House of the Dead?
Not really, because I mean, we are of course speaking a lot with Sega, but original developers not really, because when we really started the work on the House of the Dead, we couldn't travel anymore, so it was complicated to meet anyone.
Makes sense. Plus, do keep in mind this game was made a couple of decades ago. So, how many of the original staff might be there at Sega? Hard to say. Not saying they'd all
Hard to
move
say, and
on.
especially because I think there was several teams working on different episodes of the House of the Dead.
Right. Okay. Sir Crackerbold asks, any chance of a demo for House of the Dead remake?
It's not in our plan currently.
Okay. But that doesn't close the door eventually
No,
down
no,
the
no,
line.
no,
Okay.
never. If that's something the community wants, I think the best way is to say it on the Twitter, on Discord, etc. And of course, if it's something a lot of people want, we will we'll check if it's doable.
Okay. Do you think any chance of a arcade machine of the House of the Dead remake being produced?
Don't say never.
Fair enough.
There's that song that you can feel like maybe. So that's the answer.
How many Goldman reference do you guys get in The Office?
How many what?
How many Goldman references? You know, the main antagonist, House of the Dead 2?
The gold
No, I
in
don't
our
know.
I guess
office.
not many. Okay, never
I'm
mind.
not sure if I understand the question.
No,
well.
me neither. Me neither. Not sure I get it.
I'm guessing Goldman's vocal performance. Like, I don't know. It's a question from the chat. So, in regards to the PC version again, are you looking to release this on Windows only, or do you plan on having Mac or Linux build?
We can't really speak about the other platforms because we are focused on Switch currently. We can just say that we plan to release on other platforms. So, but let's see. Let's see if we are not sure currently. Okay.
Okay. Right. So, last chance to ask any questions here as we are almost out of time. I'll start with my colleagues here while the chat maybe gathers one or two more.
I actually have one for the PC version. Will it work with any of the new modern light guns that work with LCD TVs now, or is that something that needs to be looked into for development? Or
It's no, I mean we can't speak a lot about other platforms, and we can't speak about accessories. So it's complicated to answer this question.
fair enough.
Petty, can you make sure to put Mac's link into the chat?
All right, I will do that.
Yeah.
I think
All
the
right.
chat asked all of my questions, so I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, we got a good one here. Will there be an option to change the blood color to red or other colors? That was definitely a thing in the original.
Artur?
Okay, if I understand the question correct, you're asking about the colors of the crosshair?
No, the color of the blood. Will there be?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but the color of the crosshair is changeable in multiplayer mode as well. But yeah,
You are not asking, but still we're playing.
yeah, the blood color. Yes, if you unlock that option, you will be able to change the blood color. We have a system for that. It was created, of course, for the different regions for game release, but it appeared to be fun. So you will be able to pick your own color or pick the rainbow mode. That is really fancy.
Okay, and I think we are done here, unfortunately. As much as I've enjoyed this, we are out of time. We only had an hour, so we have to conclude here. If your question didn't get asked, it probably already got asked in the interview already. Once again, if you missed something, it's probably earlier, so be sure to check out the VOD. And indeed, if you enjoyed what we did here today, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and watch our other works. Like we have one of our team is going to be streaming Dragon Guard 3 later on tonight, and one of my helpers here will post the link for that. And yeah, I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your schedule and chatting with the House of the Dead. I'm looking forward to it. And
Thank you.
Thank
you know,
you.
indeed. So that'll about do it. Be sure to join us for the Sunday reviews and all of our other stuff. Until then, I shall wish you good gaming.